Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Life Fist Talks. I'm Shiv Arur. We're very privileged to have today with us Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, Shaurya Chakra. Many of you have already seen him on television over the last few months and years. It is my privilege to have him here on Life Fist because a person like him has a wealth of experience that is always very, very valuable. It's priceless, but may I just say that it is even more valuable and priceless at this point of time as India faces off with China at very, very high altitudes in Ladakh, in weather conditions that most of us cannot imagine. Well, General Kulkarni happens to be the first officer who took charge of some of the posts in Siachen during Operation Meghdoot. He received a Shaurya Chakra for his amazing dauntless missions on the glacier back in 1984, and it is the result of the bravery, the courage, the operations, the planning, the perseverance of people like General Kulkarni that India still controls the Siachen Glacier and has intercepted and preempted many of the things that Pakistan and perhaps even China wanted to do at that time. So I'd like to welcome General Kulkarni here onto Life Fist. Thank you very much, sir, for taking the time out. I know how busy you are, and I know how the television channels are also vying for your time. So here on Life Fist, we're very privileged to have your time with us. My first question to you, General Kulkarni, is, the winter has arrived in Ladakh. All this while we've been saying the winter is coming, winter is coming, it has arrived. The edges of the Pangong Lake have begun to freeze. You are very familiar with what freezing conditions and below freezing conditions are. In what kind of position are Indian troops right now, sir? In many of those posts, they're in pretty high altitude, 16,000 feet, 18,000 feet. You, of course, have operated in much higher altitudes than that. How are Indian troops placed right now?
Firstly, thank you, Shiv, for inviting me over. And secondly, let me be very, very honest. You've been very magnanimous in introducing me. But all that I've done, believe you me, if not for the troops, it would have been impossible. I just happen to be alive and I happen to be talking to you and be seen as someone who's done something. But to be honest with you, I am just a representative of one of those number of troops that helped me to do what I could, and the credit goes entirely to them. I'm just a representative and just happen to be lucky and fortunate to be present over there in Siachen. Nothing like that. Anybody could have done it. And but thanks nonetheless. Yeah. Now coming to your question as to what is it that or what would the Indian troops be facing at these great altitudes at this point of time? First and foremost, I think it's very important at this time that notwithstanding the weather, notwithstanding the kind of acute mountain sickness that the troops might be facing, it's very important. I would rate leadership as something which is the most important thing at this point of time. Because it's very, very important that all of them, the officers, JCOs, men, must be seen as one at all points of time. And the leadership is something which we really need to, and I can tell you with whatever experience I have with all of them, our leadership is class, is excellent. Each one of them, be it an officer, be it a JCO, be it a senior NCO, all of them lead from the front. And that is the most important thing today than anything else. Because everything else will follow. You could have the best of it, but if you don't have very good leadership, everything else can just crumble. So having said that, leadership part, now coming to the problems that you can visualize at this point of time. First, of course, the heights, a rarefied atmosphere. And if it's a rarefied atmosphere beyond, as you can see now, all of them are operating beyond 14,000. So let's take base as 14,000. Then everybody is operating beyond 14,000. Even if some of the troops are at Leh, that will be around between 10 and 11,000. But it is extremely, extremely cold. And that is something, is a challenge which each one of them have to face. The first is, of course, the heights that matter, the rarefied atmosphere. And with that heights and rarefied atmosphere comes the acute mountain sickness. Now, this AMS, what they call it, the acute mountain sickness, is something that you have to actually, two of us can keep talking till cows come home, unless until you experience it. And you all have been going. I've seen you, Gaurav, Savant, and everybody up and down, a lot of your team going there, coming. You understand what it really means, It's not just getting, I would say, as soon as somebody goes there and he comes back, he looks tanned. And you know that, this chap seems to have gone to high altitude and come. Because the very look up is different from what he was a few days back into what he is over there. So you find that. Now, that's because you're that much closer to the sun. There's so much of solar energy that you're actually body taking in. Sometimes it's very difficult. Extremes, that means during day, you could well have a temperature going up to say 22, 23 degrees normal. And at night, it drops to say minus, again say 22 only. That means your body has to now take 44 degrees of variation in that short span of time. And that for which you really need to acclimatize. If you are willing to accept, your body has to accept minus 22 at night and plus 22 during day. Because during day, it can be extremely hot. Sometimes you might be feeling very, very hot because the sun is directly being exposed and the weather is clear, still no wind, and there it is sun, and there you sit outside and no trees, nothing other than a rock somewhere, you're also exposed to sun. So say plus 20, plus 25 to minus 20, minus 25. So that's the kind of variation you can well imagine in those 12 hours of day that you have to experience it, and sometimes much less. So that's the first thing. So for which everybody is acclimatized. It is something like if you have to climb Mount Everest, then everybody as a mountaineer. It is not that here acclimatization is very essential. Now, for all of this, the troops are acclimatized. Everybody needs to go to those 3 stages of acclimatization. The first stage up to about 9,000 so that he understands what it is. The second stage is about 12,000 and then beyond it like that. So each one of them, depending upon the first stage of acclimatization, maybe about 6 days, the next about 3 days, there follow another 3 days. So in about 10 days of time, you can safely say that a chap is now, his body, he starts understanding that, yes, he is now accepting and adapting to the kind of environment that he would be. Now, what is it that he's it's very difficult. Not that everybody is. Some of us just might be able to adapt, like the fish takes to water, no problems at all. But some may find it extremely, might get a headache. You wouldn't know what is this bothering you. Imagine you and I are talking and I am down with a headache. Much that you may be talking so much good to me and nice things to me, but not registering. Because I have a constant headache which is going on, which is bothering me. That's a hell of a thing. You just might not be able to eat, and therefore you're not getting adequate calories to sustain yourself at that age, because you find that you can't eat. Now, you can't sleep, insomnia. Now, if you can't sleep, you can't eat, you have a headache. Imagine the kind of environment and troublesome. Now, this is something that is happening to you as a person, which you're not able to share with anybody. So your headache is your headache. You're not eating is your headache. You're not sleeping is your headache. So there's nothing that everybody can outsource. If you're constructing something, you can outsource. Okay, this is your job. This is your job. This is your. Here it's you yourself. And to be fit, as I said, it's very, very important at that altitude to be physically fit. If you're physically fit, you're mentally robust. If you're mentally robust, you can take on tasks that come your way. Maybe you're able to substitute. If I were to stand as a sentry for an hour or hour and a half, I would be doing so willingly because I know I can face it because I'm prepared for it. But if I'm not physically fit, therefore it is bothering me, which I'm not sharing with anybody. Now that leads to more acute mountain sickness. What would that lead to? Now you'll have high altitude pulmonary edema. You might have high altitude cerebral edema. So you find all kinds of things that are associated because you're not physically fit. Now this is something which would come to you well. What can the organization give you at this point of time? Good clothing. They'll ensure that you're equipped well so that you can withstand that temperature. But what do you do with your body now? How do you react? How do you adjust that body to that? You've got everything. You've got chocolates lying there. You've got badams. You've got kishmish. You've got the best of food, the tin food, the best of equipment. You've got goggles to ensure that your eyes are fine. Everything, clothes, shoes, socks, everything you have. But more importantly, the body to adapt and adjust, for which they acclimatize. That is why they say, don't be a Gama in the land of Lama. That means if you have got to go, if somebody calls me or you're calling somebody, go to tell him run. Don't run. Walk. That's okay. I may be very senior to you, but because of you don't have to run. Walk. Take it easy. Don't worry at all. Or if you can reply to me from there, do reply. So everybody has to adjust and adapt. It is not peacetime soldiering. It's real high altitude where you have to be alert. So that is the most important thing. Where now, having said that, you must be in an environment which is conducive to that altitude. Therefore, you must have a good shelter. You could have tents, or you could have a prefabricated hut, or you could have dug down and entrenched yourself, so depending upon the kind of weather. So that good shelter, good clothing, and your own body physical fitness is important. Now, if these three things are in place, everything else will follow. That is why they said, na, पेट में रोटी, हाथ में सोटी, और चाल छोटी. That means you know that now you're on a super high altitude operating, so you have to go slow. You don't have to run, because your breathing and your stepping and your walking must synchronize. So if you have a lovely music, then that's where the music will flow, and that's where you'll enjoy that music if your breathing and steps being taken are synchronized. And that can only happen if you're acclimatized. That is one. Second, if your physically fitness will only come if your stomach is full. And then you have that energy in you to be able to do around, stay awake, work well. Otherwise, half the time you're drowsy, sleeping, not keeping well. It doesn't really work. The third thing is after altitude. You have to be walking heights. You have to be moving up, moving down. There's every possibility you might just lose your balance or something. So you should have a stick in your hand, you know, haath mein soti. As in, haath mein soti. Haath mein soti, because then you know that should you be falling or something, there's a balance available to you. So if these basic things, nothing very, I would say, extraordinary, absolutely basic, but a chap must do it. He must understand it, and that's where the qualities of leadership arise. Because whoever is the leader there, a post commander there, or whether there's an officer or a JCO or a senior NCO, he must ensure that his men are ready, prepared, and then now it doesn't really matter. It could be day or night, bad weather, visibilities on days it is zero. Zero means, when I say zero, something, but most people may not visualize what does it means to say zero. Absolute zero. You may not be able to see one arm length from you who's come, because you might just be wearing whites because of the environment that you are in, or you could be wearing green, you may be spotted after about 2-3 feet. But if you're in white, you may not be spotted only. If the chap will only come to you when he boxes you. So that means he's come so close to you. And therefore, your vigilance has to be extremely high level. If you're doing a sentry duty, you have to be very, very careful. You have to see that all of it is guarded, protected well, and you're not surprised. Mountains do favor the defender. But what kind of a defender? A defender who's vigilant, a defender who's fully entrenched. So two things. And both these things come if you're physically fit and mentally robust. Then only will you be able to give your best. Otherwise, you can give any amount of lecture to him, you can give him the best of food, you can give him the best of clothing. Nothing really works, Chef, other than be strong yourself. And yeah.
General Kulkarni, you know, there have been reports that have come in from the front, you know, especially in the Pangong area, that you know, there have been all sorts of comparisons of Indian and Chinese troops, who is better suited for high altitude warfare, etc., etc. I won't go into any comparisons, because that I know is very difficult to do, and in some ways it's also unsavory. As you said, troops are following orders to hold those positions. But there have been reports of Indian troops witnessing Chinese troops being taken away on stretchers. There have been some cases of HAPO, etc., on the Chinese side. I just want to know from you, because you have seen these ailments up close. You've seen what they are actually like. For the many people who don't understand it, can you describe what it's like when someone gets HAPO? You've seen people suffering from it. What happens? What are the symptoms? Just very briefly tell us about that, and then we'll move to the more tactical aspects of high altitudes.
Sure. First, we must always never underestimate the enemy. That is very important. Only then will you be able to fight with the enemy. If you have, overconfidence can lead to certain kind of problem. So never underestimate the enemy. And that is the first thing. Preparation is something which is essential. Only when you deter by your preparations. That is the most important thing. And now, what kind of HAPO? Now, what you just said, HAPO, for instance, that actually means a high altitude pulmonary edema. That means water can get into your lungs here. Or high altitude cerebral edema. That means your mind is not really functioning well because again the water would have gone in there. So there are things. Now medical is something which you cannot, there would be medicines on the post also kept an emergency bag for you to ensure that, should something go wrong, they will tell you. But these are symptoms which come to you and you instantly know that these symptoms are there. Now, for which you have to have a buddy. That the buddy system is something very, very important in these kind of areas. That means I have a buddy. I need to share with him. If I'm not feeling, supposing we are two and I've gone to sleep, and if the other chap is not feeling sleepy, but he feels that the other man is sleeping, why should I wake him up? If I don't sleep, doesn't matter, let him at least sleep. No. Together, there should be an excellent understanding between two individuals who are buddies, and that he should be able to share. Even if he tells him, yeah, I did not sleep, I'm not getting sleep, or I'm finding it very difficult, then there are indications. That means this person has yet not adapted and adjusted. The best remedy that comes this way is to lose height. That means you just could be deployed at 16,000. You come down to 14,000. You just will start feeling a little better. The moment you start feeling better, you know that it is just losing height that is making you feel good. You can again go back to 16. It is just, first and foremost, let not anybody, as a soldier or for that matter, anybody, think that I am weak. That mustn't set in him that I am weak. Or what will somebody tell me? Arey, very kamjor aadmi hai. Dekha, nothing. Nobody is kamjor and nobody is tough. And nobody must think that is tough or is very weak. It's just that a little bit of adapting is what is required. And therefore, now what happens when these kind of things? I'll take you back to Siachen, like you mentioned. Now this boy Ramesh, who was with me on the 13th of April, 84, he was with me in 83, and excellent mountaineer for fixing ropes, that class. When it came to my going there in 84, I selected him. I said, Ramesh, you will come with me. Are you willing? He said, yes, I am willing. He trained with me for 3 to 4 months in that high altitude and doing fantastic. Didn't live even for 4 days. Didn't live for 4 days. Poor thing passed away. Now, how did he die on Siachen when he was so fit? Nothing wrong with him. 2 things that come to my mind immediately. The weather had turned extremely bad. And when the weather turned extremely bad, and he was one of those selected by me, and he was part of my team, obviously he took on the responsibility that I must, stay fit, and he was perfectly fine. He wasn't feeling well. And since he wasn't feeling well, his buddy came and told me, Saab, Ramesh, bol raha hai, uski tabiyat theek nahi hai. Now, the weather had actually turned bad. There's nothing that no helicopter could come, nothing. So I asked him, I said, Ramesh, are you feeling okay? You want to go down? You can call for a chopper. We can send you down. You just lose height. You can go down to camp 3, camp 2. Just start moving down. You feel, no, I'm fit. I'm perfectly fine. Nothing is wrong. Again, the chopper will be coming. You can always tell the chopper to land and take you back. Nothing. Don't feel bad about it. No, I'm perfectly fine. Now look back and you feel, maybe at that point of time, you feel, theek hai, chalega. Now what happens? By night, in the morning, somebody comes and tell me, Saab, Ramesh to bilkul hi sakht ho gaya hai. And what happened to him? You look him up, you find froth coming out of his mouth, total froth. And the poor thing is dead. Now, this is what happened. Because you feel that it is all perfectly fine, but it isn't. Your body is not willing to accept, and when it will crack up, you don't know. So it is best in this kind of environment, when anything happens, first report to your buddy. Let the buddy then, if you are not fit enough, be able to tell whoever the commander of the post is, so-and-so is not feeling too well. And he must immediately get on to the doctor. You have communication, you have a telephone, you have a mobile, you have so many things over there. Tell him, look, this is the chap. From the medicine box that you have already, everybody will have a medicine box. The doctor from there can advise you. Just take this medicine right now. You'll feel a little better. And then come down and I'll see you tomorrow morning. You'll find things will move. Not disclosing becomes very difficult. And not telling somebody is very harmful. So you best to share and lose height. Best, there's nothing better in mountains than to lose height. And nothing to feel ashamed of that you're losing height. Doesn't matter. You'll come back again. Rather than suffering for such a disease where you'll never ever come back again. What is the use if you are made into a category and you can't now operate at that at that range and at that height, and you're sent back and then said no, the individual is unfit for operating beyond 10,000. That is where you will feel more bad. That is better to do so and then be able to adjust and adapt. And these symptoms are very, very clear. Whether you're getting even snow blindness, you will get to know immediately that you're not seeing things. It isn't that you've turned blind. It is just that it is a temporary snow blindness that has affected you because you never wore your dark glasses. Every time people will tell you, wear your dark glasses, wear your dark glasses. You don't wear it, you look into the sun and you get snow blindness. You have been told 10 times over, wear your gloves and then touch. You don't wear your gloves and touch something which is of iron, you find that your skin is peeled off. Immediately you will see that your skin is peeled off. Everybody tells you to put your face mask and you see, you don't, you find that everything is absolutely, tanned like hell because it's all snow covered and very bad. So certain instructions that are passed must be followed in toto and mustn't think that you're hell of a fanne khan who can withstand. You can't fight nature. You have to adapt and adjust with the nature. Then you're a perfectly fine man.
General, I remember when you, in 84, when you went up there, I remember India was still searching for, the correct high altitude equipment, the gear required to actually hold those heights, etc. I'm sure things have improved vastly over the years in terms of equipment. How well equipped is India right now? How well equipped is India in terms of equipment, in terms of medical facilities, in terms of combat medicine at those heights? I'm sure the last 3 decades have been an enormous learning experience, and we are much better placed now. Am I right?
Yeah, 100%. We are firstly battle-hardened troops. Over the years, just not 84, even before that also, people have been serving in high altitude. And when it comes to equipment, I would say yes, by all means, we are far, far better equipped. Some of it which is indigenously manufactured at certain heights, you could live at certain heights where you find that it is a little heavier. Not that we don't have indigenized thing, it may be a little heavier. So you have imported equipment, that is your down jackets or your down trousers or some of the shoes or socks or goggles or balaclava, whatever that be. So if certain things are required which need to be imported, they are imported and given to the boys. As regards living is concerned, well, certain places you just might have tents where you cannot pitch anything else, where prefabricated huts are there, you will have prefabricated huts, where heating arrangements are required to be done within the huts, it will be available. If not, there would be small, I used to have those kind of, they used to call it heat kings, the small paraffin kind of a thing, you put it on fire and you find that a small pop tent gets so heated up very well, so that's not a problem. Even this heating can also be a big problem. Because if you are suddenly very comfortable and your outside temperatures are say -30 and your tent temperatures turn to about 15 degrees. So you find that from 15 degrees, you're going to -35. So you can just see the body variation. And these kind of variations can affect you. You can just might get a headache. You might just, feel uneasy or might get fever because your body has not adjusted well. So these kind of things also are very, very important. There are certain times you just might be sweating inside the pup tent. And the moment you're sweating inside the pup tent because of the heated, and you step out and you thought of going for 5 minutes, but you spent about an hour. So that sweat has turned into icicles. It's absolutely turned ice inside. Now that's equally bad because now you find your socks inside the pup tent or inside the thing was heating environment was perfectly fine. But you went out, it suddenly turned into an ice. And that's where you started getting chilblains and frostbite. So you have to be very careful. And each one of them must understand this. That is the most important thing. I keep telling people, understand and don't pretend to be, a gamma. No, nothing happens to me. Anything can happen to anybody. Equipment-wise, I must tell you, Chef, very well equipped. Very well equipped. Everybody is equipped very well. As regards weapons are concerned, equipped well. As regards heating arrangements are concerned, very well equipped. As regards medicines are concerned, each one of them would have a medicine box. But again, as I said, you mustn't take it on your own. It would always be better to take doctor's advice because it will be written there 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. This is this tablet, this is this. And the doctor knows across the board, serial number 4, just take that tablet and take one and please speak to me after an hour. Should the doctor be a little away from you? Doctors, nursing assistants, I'm telling you, they are just a saving grace in these kind of altitude. They work extremely hard. For us, we can still be doing that, but doctors are few and far between here. So the poor things have to really see so many poor, but all of it is very beautifully managed. And that's where, again, going back to the first question, leadership. That's where it's very important how the post commander, or how the company commander, or how the battalion commander, how does he lead his team? That has to be a real team. It's a teamwork. No man can think in these kind of altitude altitude that he can do it himself. No question. It's a teamwork, it's a team effort, and your confidence goes up when you know that if you're a battalion commander, you know the brigade commander is standing behind you. You're a brigade commander, you know the divisional commander is standing. So everybody, you won't have to look back. Everything comes to you. And that's where your morale goes up. And your morale goes up when the army knows that the nation stands behind it. Why won't it give his best here? He will give his best. But to say I will lose my life for giving the best, incorrect. You mustn't lose your life. You must take somebody else's life here. That is what you're there for, not losing your life. Losing your life is the easiest thing to do. You must ensure you survive well, you eat well, and be prepared to take the adversary's life should he be doing something wrong. Not losing life. I don't agree on this. I'm there for losing life. No, I'm not there for losing life. I'm there to ensure I survive and take somebody else's life. That's where that confidence comes when you're fully equipped and you know your body and you know what you're there for. The task for what you're there for starts sinking in you. Then you know what is the greater plan, what is that the nation wants from you, what does the battalion want from you, what does the company commander want from you. You will accordingly adjust, adapt, and never go wrong. You put in your best only when your mind is free from all kinds of encumbrances.
General, last couple of questions. You know, since the end of August, one of the things that we've been reporting in the media and the public has been reading is this, aspect of certain preemptive measures that have been taken by the Indian Army to dominate certain positions, gain the advantage against the Chinese posts and the aggression, especially in the Pangong sector, both on the south and the north bank. And there we come to the aspect of heights. In some places we read about the Indian Army having a height advantage. Now, you and I know that you, of course, know it far, far better because you've been there and you've actually seen it, and it has mattered to survival and the holding of posts that the dominating of heights is required. Can you explain to me and to us and to all of us listening this crucial aspect of height, of altitude advantage in mountain warfare, and how crucial is it? Because sometimes in the public view, they will say, okay, you're a little higher than the other guy. How does that give you, such a big advantage? Some people can understand, yes, you may be able to see him, etc. But can you give us a commander's perspective? How does that help?
Sure. First and foremost, the mountains always favor the defender. And the defender, if he's occupying heights and very, very dominating heights, nothing like it. But again, as I said, you have to be entrenched. That is the most important thing. The dominating heights and you are fully entrenched, only then can you be able to fight and be able to utilize that height. Heights, obviously, supposing somebody is staying on the ground floor and you are staying on the, say, the 40th floor here. Just see the difference. 40th floor, what a view that you get of the city. What a lovely thing that you can see what you would otherwise not seen. Though it is very good that, if I'm on the ground floor or the first floor or the second floor, my view is restricted. Advantage, I might be able to walk up 2 floors if the lifts don't work. Here, if 40th floor, if I'm staying in without the lifts, I have to climb those stairs, 40 lifts to be able to go. But the view that you get from the 40th floor is not the view that you will get from the second floor. So that is the first thing anybody who wants to know, why is he occupying height? That is the kind of thing. So you have domination of view. You can see everything yourself. You get a bird's eye view. It's something like you're already in a chopper. When you're sitting on the 40th floor, your view is so class. Now, not only just the view, you're dominating the fire. Now, if you see somebody, you will be able to fire also. But if you don't see somebody, you will not. And again, when you're climbing up, mind you, anybody who climbs up, his head is down. And anybody who's sitting on top, his head is down. So both heads are down. But the man on top, his head is down on you. And the one who's climbing up, his head is down, is not seeing anything. He's just able to, wanting to reach on top. Reach on top with load of. He's carrying his personal weapon, he's carrying ammunition on him, he's carrying so many things on him. But he must be carrying not less than about 20, 25 kgs on himself. Imagine carrying that kind of a weight and climbing up at that height when you're at 16 and 17,000 and wanting to get to 18,000. It's a question for a race for the height. And once you're already sitting on dominating height, you're able to see the man who's climbing up. You can actually be telling him even from the voice will travel at least about 700 meters positive once you're sitting on top. And even if he's trying to silently move up and you say, yeah, what's up? Oh, the chap is going to get a shock of his life. And the next thing is the bullet in his head. So you see, it's so difficult for people to climb at that height and occupy those heights. So occupation of heights give you domination, not just by view, but domination by fire. Now, when you're occupying heights, you will always find there's a valley adjoining it. So if the two heights on either side are dominated, you have a valley in between. That valley will be used by mechanized forces or by troops to maneuver themselves from place A to place B. But when you're dominating height, you're preventing him from using that valley. So he cannot use that valley. So you find that ab initio, the adversary is, as it is I would say that entire area is very restricted entry and exit. If that entire area is restricted entry and restricted exit, and those entries which are restricted are being occupied and denied by heights being occupied on either side, what can the adversary do? He wouldn't want to now come in for a suicidal mission. No? If you are prepared, when you're occupying heights, you're entrenched, you're alert, you're vigilant, you know what it is. You've denied him ab initio anything and everything. So that is where the occupation of heights come into play. Now, like you just mentioned about south of Pengangso. Now, the Chinese are occupying north of Pengangso. You're occupying south of Pengangso. He did that provocative military movement to have a foothold established in the south of Pengangso. Why did he do that? He did it because he wanted the Pengangso Lake being dominated from north bank and the south bank. That was his aim, because on the north bank is already there. From finger 4 to finger 8 is already occupying. Now he's looking at occupying a height on the southern bank of Pengangso, so that once he establishes a foothold, then the Pengangso Lake, now he really can dominate. But when he's been denied by a preemptive movement by our troops occupying height, now he finds he's only on one side. Now, supposing he's only on the northern bank, he's not on the southern bank, and the southern banks are higher than the northern bank, then he's being dominated by view. He can see him, and he can also be dominated by fire. And therefore, he cannot move. Much that he had certain advantages in the northern bank as long as the southern bank was unheld. But sooner the southern bank got held by anybody. If he had occupied, he would have dominated. We have occupied, now we dominate him. So therefore, the entire mountain warfare is all about heights. Occupy heights, not to height also. If I just go and sit on top of Mount Everest, there's nothing I can do. What will I do just sitting on top of Mount Everest all by myself? But certain heights where the valleys are likely to be used by the adversary, then you're occupying height, you're denying him that you're dominating him by fire, you're dominating him by view, and therefore it is yours. And hence you find that the talks are on between India and China. It's only when Chinese realize that now there are certain areas which there's nothing much that they can do. It is better that we have talks and either disengage or whichever way they would want to do it. But that disengagement has to be an honorable disengagement. It cannot be done that you all withdraw and we all sit and occupy. But the fact that they're wanting to talk is an indication that the Indians are now in a dominating position at places which they thought, in their point of view, they could have occupied. But they failed to occupy, whatever the reason it must be. Now, rightly said, now those particular special troops there was a race for that height. Now somebody has spotted them at say midnight. I'll just say that at midnight, we spotted the Chinese wanting to climb a particular height. Now he would have taken 4 hours to reach that top. We start also racing. Now it's race for that particular height, whichever height you name ABC. Now if we have gone and occupied that in 2.5 hours and we have reached the top and he's midway, still not being able to reach that height for whatever the reason is, he's lost it. Now, there's nothing that he can, until there's a fight for the height. Now, the fight for the height is a war, which nobody wants. War is not an option. It is always, war is the last option. But that is subsequently not for us to decide in this thing. But war is not an option, if we can do it. But if we can settle amicably, so much better. If it can't be done, you're occupying heights. And if you're occupying heights, you're in an advantageous position.
General, last question, since you use the phrase honorable disengagement, if that can happen, then nothing like it, because war is unthinkable for both countries at this point of time. But this standoff has been on for, many months now, since the end of April, early May. There was nothing spontaneous about it. There was a very clear design by China at this point of time. Clearly, there is a larger strategic intent as far as Ladakh is concerned. there have been multiple rounds of talks. So this is just my final question to you, sir, because you've been there. Do you see the possibility of an honorable disengagement here, or do you think that there is going to have to be some very hard decisions on the ground before it happens, or could it just stretch on like this for a very long time?
See, Shiv, it's very difficult to answer. First and foremost, the very fact that the Chinese have mobilized in the way they have mobilized, in the way they have got their troops on Tibetan plateau, whatever the number, some say 50,000, some say 1 lakh, whatever the number that they've got mobilized, it's not easy to mobilize. First, that itself would have the investment must have been billions of dollars, not millions, but billions of dollars to have them mobilized from provinces which are deep in. Now, what kind of troops that they've got? They've got Han troops. Obviously, those people have been mobilized. Those are the conscripts that have come from long distances and they've been brought up over there. They are not locals. They're not Tibetans. There will be very few Tibetans. They're not Xinjiang people. As it is, they're not doing well with the Uyghur province. Tibetans, they wouldn't trust. So you find that there's a lot that they've invested in. And this investment by them has an intention. They have to have an aim. Why did the Chinese invest such kind of money? If there's anybody may have deep pocket, they could have well bought another country. As much as they're buying spree of the dead diplomacy, they could have bought some more countries along there. But they invested so much money into it, has to have an aim. Now, again, when you see to it, right, there has been, I'm sure they must have deciphered what they were having. Look back and you see things were quite visible from 2013, 2014, 2017, everything was visible. Nothing that was hidden. Can you imagine? You have a prime minister of a country visiting you for the first time and you have Depsang crisis onto you. The same Depsang crisis when Lee, the prime minister of China, visiting India, you have Depsang crisis right there in front of you. And disengagement till the last day, you don't know the prime minister is visiting, the disengagement will take place or not. That's 2013. 2014, she is visiting you. The president of China is visiting you. He has just taken over in 2013. You have Chuma crisis. And he's about to land. Everything is happening. You have not disengaged. The two armies are facing each other and it's very free for all. What does this indicate? That means the tensions were there. Now you have 2017. Now, in 2017, he's started talking of 1959. Now, imagine he's talking about 19. That means there is a dispute. And the Chinese intentions are absolutely clear. They would want to prevail upon Indians to say that, look, 1959 is the line that I want, which I had stated so by my then Prime Minister Chawunlai to your then Prime Minister Pandit Nehru. If you have not agreed to, we have gone through 62 and now we are ready. Again, you have Global Times saying again and again, it's 62 and we'll show you 5 times more humiliation than what we've shown in 62. Chinese intentions are very clear. There is no denying the fact that Chinese intentions are clear. Only thing is, the Chinese probably failed or underestimated a resolve to stand against them. That is what they thought, that they never expected that the diplomacy is not working. It's the political now. Again, we've had political talks, not as yet working. Diplomacy has yet not working. The two militaries are now eyeball to eyeball confrontations, what is going on. This is not the way, even supposing. Now, just you ask, now, how would you resolve it? There has to be some way to resolve it. If the Chinese are hell-bent in saying it is 1959, now what does 1959 mean? The small here, there, the whole of Arunachal is theirs. In 1959 agreement, the whole of Arunachal is theirs. That means they are not accepting your McMahon line, the watershed principle. They're coming on to the foothills of this thing. That is there. Even if it is a give and take. Now, where is that give and take? Or where will it end? First and foremost, I don't think both the countries, now we may be in a position of strength, and they might think no countries can negotiate from a position of weakness. No country. If we think that we are in a position of strength and the Chinese are in a position of weakness, we are wrong. If the Chinese think they are in a position of strength and can dictate terms to India, they are wrong. So now both sides are sort of stubborn, adamant, and it's very difficult. I think it's extremely difficult. I would put it this way, that we were in Indonesia some centuries back here. We've got temples in Cambodia here. We've got temples in Bali. We've got temples in Thailand. Does that mean all of it is ours? That's where the Chinese have to understand. that they cannot just go on doing expansionism the way they desire. And rightly so. Why they're looking at Tibet is because of water. Why they're looking at Xinjiang? Because of the other critical items that they get from Xinjiang, cotton and a whole lot of other raw material. So they're looking at it this way. Once we give in to Chinese way of thinking, you give an inch, they'll ask for a mile. So now is the time to say no more, no more. And therefore, I don't think, which is my personal view, it is not a very easy solution. It's a long haul, and we have now the Pakistani officers sitting in the Western Theatre Command as part of their ops room, and I'm sure many people may not agree with me. The LAC almost turns like an LOC. It's going to be hot and it's going to be difficult. The Sun Tzu principle is, again, you're quite familiar, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without a fight. So he's not fighting, but he's now in a way of attrition, is coercion, is see to it that we wear and tear. Economically, we get shattered. And right now, he's trying all that he can to prevail upon. Now, since they themselves seem to think they're center of universe, they seem to think that the Middle Kingdom and that they are now very rich and now they are militarily very strong, very modern, but they have failed to estimate, and they have underestimated the resolve of India. They aren't a pushover army now. That is the first thing they must understand. But again, the armies also can do nothing very much. Limited the armies can do. It has to be a political will which they agree upon, and then the militaries will play their role. But if you say, no, you are disengaged from a particular height, and they come and occupy, what do you do? So there's a total distrust that exists between the two militaries. There is no denying. There is that yet no diplomatic headway also coming in. And that diplomatic headway can only come if you're militarily also very strong and economically also very strong. So economical strength, your military strength, your diplomatic strength will give you political strength. So it is give and take. I don't know how this thing, but the Chinese have already taken whatever and more than what we could have given them. Now also, if they're asking for more, then I think it's very difficult to say, but it's a long haul. I don't see an easy solution between India and China, because the Chinese have come with a purpose. Chinese have not just decided to come and exercise and shift, and no, they have come with a purpose. The political aim is clear, the military aim is clear. Only thing is the military aim, they can't take it forward to humiliating the Indian army. That much they have understood, that they cannot, it's not a pushover army, they cannot win. They might win a battle here, will win a battle there, but they cannot win a war. That they are very, very clear with the Indian army. That is not the aim. Their aim is now politically. Yeah. If somebody can, sort of, and they don't seem to end. The salami slicing will carry on. Supposing, I'm just saying, worst case scenario, tell them, okay, take finger 4. It won't end with finger 4. They would still want something else. So it's not possible. I don't think. We have to have an honorable thing. And that honorable thing, as I see today, is only one. That we say, as April 2020, let's go back. The status quo ante. April 2020. Let's start from there. We are not saying status quo ante 1959. We are not saying 62. We are not saying 75 or 93 or 96. We are just saying April 2020, wherever the armies were. Let's go back to that. Irrespective of whatever it is, with no humiliation to anybody, no, feeling hurt or uneasy about it. Just April 2020, let's get back. Then start talking. But if the Chinese are not willing to go back to April 2020 and say, no, it is 1959, I don't see any solution. I see long haul. And let me be honest, we must be willing to accept with Pakistan and China, it's an unrestricted warfare for life.
Unrestricted warfare for life is a sobering thought, and especially to get it from someone who has faced the enemy from very close quarters at super high altitudes. We take it very seriously here on LifeIs, and I'm sure all of our viewers will as well. The long haul, the possibility of an honorable exit from this stalemate, recedes with each passing day. Can status quo ante of April 2020 be the starting point of a larger resolution to the border dispute, one can only wonder, because like General Kulkarni, you mentioned the billions of dollars that have been spent by China to get to this point, appear to preclude the possibility of a sudden reversal, of this huge mobilization. So I agree with you completely, and I take your wisdom that this is the long haul. But the interesting aspect that maybe China had not counted on was India's resolve, India's pushback, India's preemptive measures that have been taken place, since late August, and therefore some of their calculations perhaps didn't go as planned. Never underestimate the enemy. That counts obviously for both sides. It certainly counts for India, and with the Indian leadership on the ground, with Indian resolve on the ground, hopefully, let us hope for the sake of the men and troops that war is not an option and war should not be an option. But as China has learned, India will go to war if necessary to defend its territory, because that's what the military is meant for. War should not be imposed, and hopefully it will never be imposed. Hopefully there will be an honorable exit from this entire deadlock. But let us hope that even if it is the long haul, it is diplomacy that finally unravels this deadlock, and that the troops can go back to their barracks and things can go back at least to April 2020 position. General Kulkarni, it's been an absolute pleasure, sir. Great to have your wisdom. And we know that when someone like you speaks, that's the thing. It's not Gyan. It is you who've been there with, thousands of our very brave troops. You've led them. You've conducted these operations yourself. You've operated at those altitudes. You know what dominating heights is like. You know what being eyeball to eyeball with the enemy is like, especially a very treacherous enemy. So we take your words very, very seriously, and so do all of our viewers here on LiveFist. So I thank you very much for joining me, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chef. Pleasure talking to you. Grateful. God bless you.